G'day, it's Chris, and this is Weekly Tech 5. On today's episode, we unpack and I give you my first impressions of the Pixel 3. Let's do this. So, opening up the box, you're presented with a beautiful Pixel 3. This is a smaller version of the XL, and it comes either in this one, clearly white, not pink, and just black. Alright, let's do my favorite thing, peel off that wrapper. Oh, mate, really enjoy this bit. In your hand, it feels really solid, like nice and comforting with a little bit of weight, and the rounded edges give it a nice easy feel in your hand. That texture back is, well, it feels good. It doesn't feel like it's going to slip out of your hand. Looking around it, you've got the power button, volume up and down, camera, flash, fingerprint sensor, then speaker with the two different cameras at the front, both the wide and the normal, and the bottom microphone. So it's got stereo speakers essentially, using those two different combinations there. Opening the box, you're presented with just a little bit of paperwork and advertising stuff from Google. Up next, Pixel Buds. So you can buy these individually, and with these you can use the Google Assistant as well as Google Translate, which I'll find a video and link it up above. Up next, you've got a dongle. Rest in peace, the 3.5mm headphone jack. Yeah. Transfer device tool for those coming from another device, Apple. And a power brick to do some fast charging with. Fantastic. Thank you, Google, for including that. Whilst we get this thing configured, let's go over the latest Android 9 Pie and all the features of the phone. And hey, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I feature Australian content and I upload every Wednesday and Friday, and there's also a podcast available if you want it. Cheers! So, we've got a OLED 5.5 inch 18:9 display running at 2160 by 1080. Packing a nice 443 ppi, it's 3D Corning Gorilla Glass 5. The metal frame and soft touch glass is thankfully IP68 water and dust resistant. Internally, it sports a Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 running at 2.5 GHz and 1.6 GHz. Camera wise, you've got the rear 12.2 megapixel, which features dual pixel face detection autofocus. Optical and image stabilization is present, and to get these nice beautiful bokeh pictures such as my beautiful mug, you've got a 1.8 aperture. On the front, there's two different cameras. You've got an 8 megapixel wide angle and telephoto cameras. The wide angle has got a f2.2 aperture with a field of view of 107 degrees, whereas the telephoto is 1.8 at 75 degrees. Video performance is pretty good, running at 1080p. You can capture 30 frames, 60 or 120 frames per second. 4K only goes up to 30 frames per second, sadly. And you can do super slow-mo at 1080p, 240 frames per second. To get to the Google Assistant, you can do it many different ways. Obviously your keyword, press a button on the screen, or just give it a squeeze. Alright, so my impressions of the phone. Google's new operating system with its lack of, app switcher, home button, well, kind of home button, and the back button. At first, I found it a little bit hard to get used to, but with a little bit of experimentation, I was able to do it pretty well, I think, and I would imagine just within an hour, it'll become a second nature. Everything runs butterly smooth with switching between apps ultra fast. Animations are crisp. The screen looks really crisp with the brightness nice and poppy. And before I finish up this first impressions video, I've got to say, unfortunately for our Australian viewers out there, Google's AI assistant that can answer phone calls for you and screen call is sadly not available just yet. As you can see here, I called it and it didn't work. Really frustrating. So please Google, if you are watching, which I doubt it, please enable this feature as soon as possible. Really appreciate that. Alright, so that's today's video. If you haven't already, once again, consider subscribing. And if you do nothing, stay techie.
What a wonderful that world.